Welcome to Tradition 9. Spiritual principle of Tradition 9 is equality. The long form is each AA group needs the least possible organization. Rotating leadership is the best. Small group may elect its secretary. The large group its rotating committee. And the groups of the large metropolitan area, their central or intergroup committee, which often employs a full-time secretary. The trustees of the General Service Board are, in effect, our AA General Service Committee. They're the custodians of our AA tradition and the receivers of voluntary AA contribution by which we maintain our AA General Service Office at New York. They are authorized by the groups to handle our overall public relations, and they guarantee the integrity of our principal newspaper, the AA Grapevine. All such representatives are to be guided in the spirit of service, for true leaders in AA are but trusted and experienced servants of the whole. They derive no real authority from their titles. They do not govern. Universal respect is the key to their usefulness. The idea of treating everyone with the same regard, I looked up the definition of universal respect. The idea of treating everyone with the same regard and consideration, regardless of their background or differences. It can also mean having a good opinion of someone or relating to everyone in a group or society. Universal values. All individuals should be treated with dignity and respect, and that their rights and freedoms should be protected. AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. AA is a fellowship of equals, and that decisions should be made by the group as a whole, unless you cheat. When Tradition 9 was first written, it said that Alcoholics Anonymous needs the least possible organization, planning, and restructuring. Today, we're able to say with assurance that Alcoholics Anonymous, AA as a whole, should never be organized at all. I think that word organized means regulated, like controlled, not that it shouldn't have any organization at all. And I could be wrong because I don't know everything. But I think that the word organized, if you look it up, because I haven't really looked it up here, but I have regulated for the word organized. It doesn't mean organization like, so a normal person thinks organized, well, the phone's over here, the coffee pots are organized over here, the tables are all in their place, people show up at a certain time for their meetings, and they clean the hall and stuff like that. That's not what it's talking about. It doesn't mean don't be organized like that. It means regulated and controlled. Then, in seeming opposite contradiction, we proceed to create special service boards and committees which in themselves are organized. Wow. I thought I had all this stuff written down. 172. Service board may provide services to a community, while a committee is a group that supports a board by handling specific tasks or projects. How then can we have an unorganized movement which can and does create a service organization for itself? Scanning this puzzler, people say, what do they mean, no organization? Well, let's see. Did anyone ever hear of a nation, a church, a political party, even a benevolent association that had no membership rules? None. Look, we have no membership rules. So no one can really tell anyone else what to do, but they try. Did anyone ever hear of a society which couldn't somehow discipline its members and enforce obedience to necessary rules and regulations? If you're trying to, as this woman in AA put it, make someone uncomfortable for breaking their anonymity, like me, you're breaking tradition 9. There are no membership rules. No members can be disciplined and forced to do what someone else wants them to do. Doesn't nearly every society on earth give authority to some of its members to impose obedience upon the rest and to punish or expel offenders? That means, doesn't every group on earth give power and control to its members to force submission, discipline, and penalize members? Okay? To expel them, throw them out. Okay? That's what we're not supposed to do, you guys. Look, I ain't making this stuff up. Read it for yourself on page 172, Tradition 9. You're not supposed to be doing that. You know who you are. Stop controlling. Therefore, every nation, in fact, every form of society, has to be a government administered by human beings. Power to direct or govern is the essence of organization everywhere. So, control, to manage, and rule is the spirit of organization. Control, manage, rule, manipulate. Those are all trying to organize and manipulate the situation to control it. That's opposite of Tradition 9. If you don't believe it, look it up yourself. Yet Alcoholics Anonymous is an exception. We're supposed to be an exception, and the spirit of Alcoholics Anonymous is going to be the same in the literature, whether you're practicing that in your group as a whole or not. It doesn't change because you cannot change the words on a page. It's already written down. So if you're not practicing properly the spirit of equality in Tradition 9, then you're not working a real program in your group or your own personal life. As long as you're trying to manipulate and control your group out of fear, it will stay sick. An exception from Oxford Dictionary is a person or thing that is not included in a general statement. A thing that does not follow a rule, conform, or comply with rules. So most AA groups are an exception to this organization rules. Not all, because all AA groups are not practicing Tradition 9. So AA generally does not conform to that pattern. Neither its General Service Conference, its Foundation Board, nor the humblest group committee can issue a single directive to an AA member and make it stick, let alone mete out any punishment. So it doesn't matter if you can't command an AA member and impose a punishment for what you may not like. So let's say a drunk comes in, is real loud and disorderly. We can call the police and have the police come in and send him out. But AA as a whole, in the way that we believe, we're not supposed to be throwing people out, sending them away, punishing them for being an alcoholic. They go out, they don't come back, they die. That's why we don't do this. Groups have tried to expel members, but the banished have come back to sit in the meeting place saying, "This is life for us. You can't keep us out." Committees have instructed many in AA to stop working on a chronic backslider, only to be told, how do I do my 12-step work is my business. Who are you to judge? This doesn't mean an AA member won't take advice or suggestions from more experienced members, but it surely won't take orders. I don't know any AA person that wants to take orders from anyone. I don't know any, because you know what? We don't have hardly anything left. We've already been crushed. My pride was already taken. So you're not going to crush the little tiny speck that I have left of light and love in my heart. Okay? Sorry. Let me be calm. Okay, no one's going to take orders, commands. Orders can also be directions. So then, like, if you say, like I do, I'm kind of passionate. This is what the literature says. Well, nobody has to do it. They don't have to. You don't have to work a program. You don't have to do the steps. You don't have to follow the traditions. No one can make you do it. The thing is, I try because I want to stay sober. Who is more unpopular than the old time AA full of wisdom who moves to another area and tries to tell the group there how to run his business? He and all like him who view with alarm for the good of AA meet the most stubborn resistance, or worse still, laughter. You might think AA's headquarters in New York would be an exception. Surely the people there would have to have some authority, which is authority means is defined as power to enforce obedience. Most of us have been had gone through being forced. you know, it's not like that we're just rebels without a cause. But long ago, trustees and staff members alike found they could do no more than make suggestions, and very mild ones at that. So, like the old timers, they won't really say much, but they'll do little hints and little tips, but they're not going to actually give you out and out advice. Even if I ask an old timer, like someone who's got like 30 years in the program, 25, 30 years, and they don't want to give advice at all because they learned, you know, to give advice is to take someone else's life in your hands. Everyone has to make their own choices. You can maybe lay out some choices, but you really can't run anyone's life for them. Besides, most alcoholics will do the opposite of what you say. So if they're going to do the opposite of what you say, you don't really know if they are or not. So you can't really say the opposite of what you mean because they might actually do that. Oh, Lord. They even had to coin a couple of sentences which still go into half the letters they write. Here it is. Of course, you are at perfect liberty to handle this matter any way you please, but the majority experience in AA does seem to suggest that's how they do it. Because you say, well, if you do it this way, this is probably going to happen. If you do it that way, that's probably going to happen, because if you tell an alcoholic anything like that, they're going to prove. We like to test things. Now, that attitude is far removed from central government, isn't it? We recognize that alcoholics can't be dictated to individually or collectively, ordered around. It's not that none of us have never tried. In my personal experience, I tried to follow all the rules perfectly and do everything perfectly right and make everyone happy and, walk the straight and narrow line. And for that, I was beat, abused, punished, manipulated. It was just horrible. That's why I have a real aversion to being bossed around. Suggestions are fine. An attitude is, from Oxford, the way in which a person views and evaluates something or someone. Attitude determines whether people like or dislike things and therefore how they behave towards them. At this juncture, we can hear a churchman exclaim, "They are making disobedience a virtue." At this point in time, we can hear a churchman say, they're making rebellion morally good and desirable. He's joined by a psychiatrist who says defiant brats. A brat is a person, especially a child, who behaves badly. They won't grow up and conform to social usage, because they won't grow up and behave in common behavior like everybody else. The man in the street says, "I don't understand it. They must be nuts." But all these observers have overlooked something unique in Alcoholics Anonymous. Unless each member follows, to the best of his ability, our suggested 12 steps to recovery, he almost certainly signs his own death warrant. That's fact. His drunkenness and dissolution are not penalties inflicted by people in authority. They are results from his own personal disobedience to spiritual principles. Allergies are really bothering me. His drunkenness and dissolution. The dissolution is excess self-indulgence. Okay, his drunkenness and excess aren't punishments given by people. They're consequences of his refusal to obey the spiritual principle. The same stern threat applies to the group itself. Stern, serious. Unless there's an approximate conformity to AA's traditions, the group too can deteriorate and die. Approximate conformity. Some kind of a level of obedience to spiritual principles. At least I think that God gives us grace for trying. I think if we're trying, even if we're doing badly, we're still trying. I think it's the quitting trying that will cause the most problems, or doing just enough, even in a group setting. If your group is just enough and we don't want to push it too far, then how are we going to grow? I don't wish any human being on the face of this planet to suffer from alcoholism or addiction. I don't wish my worst enemy to go through it, and I certainly don't wish any group to be sick. I don't wish that on anyone, and I'm not perfect either, but I see where I'm wrong. and I try to change my behavior. That's what I try to do. I hold myself accountable to other people, and those other people are not going to be anyone that's watching this. So we of AA do obey spiritual principles first because we must, and ultimately because we love the kind of life such obedience brings. Great suffering and great love are AA's disciplinarians. We need no others. Disciplinarians, hard taskmasters. It is clear now that we ought never to name boards to govern us, but it is equally clear that we shall always need to authorize workers to serve us. So we don't need boards to rule us, but we do need to permit workers to do their jobs, allow them to be paid for it. It's the difference between the spirit of vested authority and the spirit of service, two concepts which are sometimes poles apart. The spirit of service, the spirit of vested authority is the power that's given to, and the service is the spirit of service, freely have received, freely give. So if I'm freely giving out of my heart, even if I'm working in a position, doesn't mean that I shouldn't receive monetary compensation. It is in this spirit of service that we elect the AA group's informal rotating committee, intergroup association for the area, and the General Service Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous for AA as a whole. Even our foundation, once an independent board, is today directly accountable to our fellowship. Its trustees are the caretakers and expediters of our world services. Just as the aim of each AA member is personal sobriety, the aim of our services is to bring sobriety within reach of all who want it. If nobody does the group's chores, if the area's telephone rings unanswered, if we do not reply to our mail, then AA as we know it would stop. Our communications lines with those who need our help would be broken. I think now we have a wider area of communication lines that need to be opened up. And that's what I'm trying to do. My part. It has to function, but at the same time, it must avoid those dangers of great wealth, prestige, and entrenched power which necessarily tempt other societies. Okay, must avoid the dangers of great wealth, money, fame, and power. That's like the whole human thing. Though Tradition 9 at first sight seems to deal with a purely practical matter, in its actual operation, it discloses a society without organization, animated only by the spirit of service and true fellowship. Thank God. Animated means brought to life. I'm reanimating. General Service Office serves as a hub of communication for AA groups in the U.S. and Canada, and as an exchange point for AA experience accumulated over the years. I think I need to make a call to General Service Office. They got a lot to offer. I'm glad they're there. I'm glad you're here too. Have a good day.